Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. But no matter how furious the Sun Moon Empire's generals and soul engineers were, they would never expect that their war god empress was feeling very conflicted in this moment. Bastard. You're such a bastard. How can you say such things in front of everyone? You have to tell me such things in private. Who knows, I might even agree. Do you know that I think of that every passing day, and I would rather be your concubine than this empress. Juzi's heart was trembling faintly, and her breathing wasn't very balanced. The Fire Phoenix Legion's formidable individuals beside her thought that she was boiling with fury, and nobody dared to utter a word. They were all waiting for her to give the order. You're asking to die, Huo Yuhao. Juzi's words were almost squeezed out from between her teeth. But she didn't know that Huo Yuhao, who was still in the shadows, didn't feel very good in this moment. Tang Wutong was punishing him angrily. Huo Yuhao used his consciousness to continuously explain to her that he was doing this to infuriate the Sun Moon Empire's powerful individuals so that he could execute the next step in his plan. Unfortunately, Tang Wutong was just a jealous woman right now. What? Do you not agree, Empress? So what you said about giving me whatever I want means nothing. In that case, I know how to say meaningless words too. Do you really think that we can't do anything to you? Juzi said coldly, Huo Yuhao, do you believe that I can't give the order right now to attack Shrek City and massacre the entire city? I will annihilate your academy's 10,000 years of foundations, and I will remove Shrek Academy from the face of the earth for eternity. Huo Yuhao replied coldly, if you dare to do that, I will do all I can to murder every single person from the Sun Moon Empire, including the Empire's citizens, even if that takes my whole life and my last breath. I will not make any exceptions. I will do that until the Sun Moon Empire's blood no longer runs through this world. What? The Sun Moon Empire wasn't the only one who was astonished when Huo Yuhao said those words. Shrek Academy's senior members, who had flown into the air in the distance, were also in shock. They finally understood why Huo Yuhao would go to the Sea God's Pavilion last night to resign, which appeared a little impulsive. He probably wasn't impulsive at all when that happened, and he already had a plan in his mind. What was he saying? He was a titled dueler, and he was threatening to make a move against innocent civilians, even though he was targeting the Sun Moon Empire. What did that mean? This meant that he would become a machine of slaughter and murder, and he would become the entire continent's enemy. He would become an assassin. Not even evil soul masters dared to say something like this. Huo Yuhao would become a public enemy to the entire world of soul masters, and everyone would be against him. Not even the Star Luo Empire or the Douling Empire would protect him, because what he had threatened to do was forbidden. This was absolutely forbidden. This was something that couldn't be tolerated at all in the world of soul masters, and also in the world of soul engineers. The strong wouldn't prey upon innocent civilians. This was an unspoken rule that applied especially to titled dueler. A titled dueler's destructive power was incredible, and killing 10,000 normal civilians within a day wasn't difficult at all. Apocalypse would descend upon the world, and rivers would run with blood. Therefore, Huo Yuhao wasn't just opposing the Sun Moon Empire when he said those words. He placed himself on opposite ends with the entire continent. He was going against humanity. Elder Xian was hovering in the air as his facial muscles suddenly twitched conspicuously. Elder Song stared at Elder Xian with a stunned look on her face. Is he really going to do that? Elder Xian forced a laugh and answered, the question now is whether or not he will do this. He's thrown his reputation out the window with his words. I don't know what he wants to do. It's no wonder that he wants to relinquish everything he has in Shrek Academy. This child never fails to surprise us. I'm proud. Qian Duo suddenly chimed in from the side. Xian Lina slapped his bald head and snapped, what are you proud of? Qian Duo chortled and said, don't you guys think Yuhao is truly starting to be like an ultimate soldier? What is an ultimate soldier? An ultimate soldier can turn the tide of battle all by himself, even if is faced with thousands and thousands of soldiers and enemies. Hu Yuhao is beginning to embody that essence, and that may not be a bad thing. As for what he just said, my fellow elders, have you guys heard anything? Elder Zhuang was the first to shake his head. I didn't hear anything. We're too far away. Yang Shaozhe heaved a sigh and said, yes. I don't know what's wrong with my ears nowadays, they're not working very well. I need to go back and clean them out. Hu Yuhao's voice wasn't traveling towards us, and I don't think anybody in Shrek City has heard anything either. This kid is always mumbling, who knows what he's talking about. The corner of Elder Xian's mouth twitched again. He heaved a sigh as well and said, I haven't been drinking wine for a long time, but Yuhao angered me last night to the point that I had a few drinks, to the point where my head is still a little dizzy today. No, I can't fly anymore. Let me rest on the battlements for a few moments. This kid will never lose, so what are we still doing here? Come, let's go back. Elder Song's heart was twitching instead. Damn, you're an ultimate dueler, and you're saying that you can't fly anymore. Who will believe that? Do you really believe that yourself? Elder Xian stared deeply at Elder Song and said, there are some things that, if you keep telling yourself again and again, you'll believe in time. The Sun Moon Empire's army of 100,000 fell into complete silence in the distance. The normal soldiers, who were originally detached, because this battle of greats was none of their business, suddenly opened their eyes wide. Their surveillance soul tools also immediately detected that Shrek City's soul masters, who had flown out, were going back. What did that mean? At the very least, this meant in their eyes that Shrek City had given up on Huo Yuhao. He was truly alone in this moment. Juzi stared at Huo Yuhao, and her eyes were as black as could be. Her feelings were incredibly conflicted and messy in this moment. She had never expected that Huo Yuhao, who had always been kind and good-hearted, would say something like this. Of course, she didn't believe that Huo Yuhao would do anything to normal civilians, but he was subjecting himself to universal condemnation with those words. Have I really forced this to happen? Is it because the Douling Empire's royal family have been completely annihilated in Lingdou City? Have I forced him to do this? Yuhao. Juzi's heart softened a little in this moment, and even her wariness towards Huo Yuhao seemed to change a little because of her softening heart. What do you want? Juzi's voice was still as cold as ever, but she wasn't as forceful and domineering as before. Huo Yuhao said plainly, I don't want anything. I'm all by myself anyway, and I'll just pit myself against you for all of eternity. Don't you dare. Juzi roared angrily. Huo Yuhao smiled and answered, you can try, and see if I dare to or not. I'm not using my own life in this wager anyway. There are many people here. Juzi's body quivered. You're a titled dueler, and yet you dare to target innocent civilians. Are you not afraid of the heavens smiting you? Huo Yuhao said, I would rather be struck by the heavens than have my country destroyed. The heavens will smite me, but that will save many lives that I wish to protect. So what if the heavens strike me down? Juzi seemed a little flustered. What exactly do you want? Huo Yuhao took a deep breath as he looked up to the sky. I am not sure if your trip here to ask the Academy to hand me over is your original intention. But since you've made that request, then I am here. But catching me isn't that easy. Why don't we have a wager in front of these two armies? Wager. Juzi's lowered guard was immediately raised once more when she heard that word. Wager. What does he want to wager on? Juzi stared at Huo Yuhao confusedly. What do you wish to wager? Juzi lowered her voice as she spoke. Huo Yuhao said plainly, you guys are most afraid of my abilities to conceal myself, and I do not wish to see you destroy my country. Even though I no longer have any ties to Shrek City, I still wish to protect it. We will fight 10 battles to determine the victor. I will take on 10 people by myself, who will take turns to fight me one-on-one. We will fight to the death, and the winner will continue, while the loser dies. If you guys can kill me in 10 rounds, then everything will be over. If I win all 10 rounds, then you will withdraw your army, and you cannot attack Shrek Academy within 3 years. We will execute this wager immediately if you agree, and if you don't, then be prepared to pay with your civilians' lives. Zhu Zi had a sudden revelation. Hu Yuhao had been foreshadowing this for a long time. This was his final goal after pressuring and threatening like that. That is so smart. He's using his own strength and threats to tie down the Sun Moon Empire's armies. He's forcing me to finish this wager with him. Zhu Zi's army of 100,000 was watching, and if the Sun Moon Empire didn't take this wager, that meant the Empire didn't care about their soldiers' safety. The army would fall into disarray, and as long as Huo Yuhao could create several small incidents and damage, that could lead to an event that the military dreaded most, rebellion. Zhu Zi couldn't accept that possibility, and neither could her generals. Therefore, Huo Yuhao had paid with his own reputation to tie the entire Sun Moon Empire army down. Furthermore, he was still so young, and he still wasn't an ultimate dueler. He wasn't even a transcendent dueler. He had demanded to take on 10 people one after another all by himself under such circumstances, so there was no reason for the Sun Moon Empire to reject this fellow. The pressure on Shrek would disappear if the Sun Moon Empire withdrew their army from Shrek City. Subsequently, the army's plan to move against the Star Luo Empire would likely have to change. Yuhao, you have given me a very difficult problem. Zhu Zi's mind spun rapidly in that short period of time. Right in this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in her mind. This voice was very soft, but it was unnaturally clear. Evil soul masters are our common enemy. Eh? Zhu Zi felt her heart skip a beat. She had never expected that Huo Yuhao could still project his consciousness into her mind with such a formidable linked defensive barrier protecting her. At the same time, she immediately understood what he wanted to do. Getting the army to retreat was but one of his objectives. The other objective was targeted at the Holy Ghost Church. Yes. The Holy Ghost Church was their common enemy. However, targeting the Holy Ghost Church now was something that conflicted with Zhu Zi's plan. However, Huo Yuhao could no longer be bothered with this. Now that he was in front of so many people, he had no choice. Huo Yuhao, I can't believe you are foolish enough to attempt to challenge 10 of my people just by yourself. We definitely have no qualms betting with you. However, it doesn't seem to be fair, does it? If we were to lose, our entire army has to retreat. And if you were to lose, it will just be the loss of a single life. Aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? I don't think you're quite there yet. Zhu Zi sneered. Huo Yuhao really wanted to give Zhu Zi a big thumbs up for the great teamwork she was showing. It was really incredible for her to be able to instantly understand what he meant despite the tension in the atmosphere. The main targets Huo Yuhao had in mind were naturally the evil soul masters from the Holy Ghost Church. The safety of the Sun Moon Empire's army was definitely not enough to motivate the evil soul masters to act. After all, those evil soul masters would prefer to witness more deaths, so they could capture the spirits to improve their cultivation. Hence, Huo Yuhao knew he needed something to attract all of them. And he naturally needed to produce these things himself. Huo Yuhao nodded and said, I definitely can't be compared with your entire army. However, I can offer a few more things on top of my life. As he spoke, a huge black door opened beside him. Following which, a massive creature crept out from the huge door. After the massive creature appeared, countless observers could not help but gasp in fear. What is that? It was a gigantic bear, which over 50 meters tall that was radiating an insanely frightening aura. Its fur was somehow gray, while its eyes were blood red. It seemed as though there were flames burning in its eyes. Following which, Huo Yuhao retrieved a dagger from his hand. It was a dagger, whose blade was radiating an icy blue color. The dagger flew up into the sky, and instantly, the surrounding temperature plunged. The linked defensive barrier formed by the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion, which was quite a distance away, started to fade. Snowflakes also started to fall from the sky. If Xie Xianchen were here, he might have been able to connect the dots after seeing the black door and the morning dew dagger Huo Yuhao had just released. Unfortunately, he had yet to return. Everything was within Hu Yuhao's expectations, and under his control. Jiangshi Ice Bear King, a bai, and the Sigh of the Frozen Goddess, Morning Dew Dagger. These two items are the most precious items I have. This dagger is a godly weapon. If not for it, I would not have been able to block Di Qian's blow. Let me show you what it can do. As he spoke, the Morning Dew Dagger suddenly turned vertical in mid-air before it transformed into a blue light that shot straight towards the linked defensive barrier set up by the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. Before Zhu Zi even gave the order, the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion instinctively enhanced the protective soul barrier to its maximum defensive potential. However, the fiery red glow on the linked defensive barrier immediately faded the moment the dagger came into contact with it. The entire barrier turned dark blue instead before a series of loud explosive noises could be heard. A deep cut could be seen on the outer side of the linked defensive barrier. The barrier was a hair's breadth from being torn open by the dagger. It was important to note that this was a full-power linked defensive barrier, which was established by a Beast Lord-ranked Soul Engineer Legion. The Morning Dew Dagger was actually able to create such an effect just from a gentle tap. The most frightening thing was how it was able to overcome its elemental disadvantage. Its fearsome extreme coldness was actually able to penetrate the protective soul barrier and be felt by the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineers. The fiery red color radiating from their bodies became a lot fainter. They could not believe that a single dagger was able to achieve so much. After retracting his Morning Dew Dagger, Huo Yuhao spoke plainly, "As for my pet over here, I believe there's no need for me to explain much. Those who dabble in spirits and spectral matters should naturally understand what it is. Isn't that right, Leader Zhongli Wu? I know you're scrutinizing it. Why don't you come out?" A purple-black light suddenly soared into the sky. Zhongli Wu, the leader of the Holy Ghost Church, had revealed his figure in the air. His eyes revealed the greed he had for a bai. He didn't even bother to look at Huo Yuhao as his eyes were completely focused on a bai's body. Even as the leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Zhongli Wu was unable to tell how Huo Yuhao was able to transform such a powerful soul beast into a spectral creature. However, he was absolutely sure that this spectral creature was likely to be stronger than it was in its previous life. It must have been a savage beast in its past life in order to release such a powerful aura. Turning savage beasts into spectral puppets had always been one of Zhongli Wu's goals. Previously, when he went after Di Qian, he was hoping to turn Di Qian into his puppet. If he were to succeed, he believed he would become the strongest individual in the entire world. Unfortunately, the beast god's power had far exceeded his expectations, and the Holy Ghost Church had sustained huge losses in their attempt to hunt the beast god down. Even Zhongli Wu was injured during the attempt, and he had only barely recovered after taking a rest. The only reason why they were able to flee from the Great Star Do Forest was that the beast god was already injured, and they were still sufficiently sensible to flee before their situation worsened. If not, their bodies might have had to stay within the Great Star Do Forest forever. The forces within the Great Star Do Forest were far more powerful than they had imagined. Military Supervisor. Zhu Zi looked at Zhongli Wu as though she was asking him for advice. As the military supervisor, Zhongli Wu had a lot of authority in the army. He was not in charge of anyone, but was supposed to supervise Zhu Zi. Whenever Zhu Zi had to make an important decision, she needed to get his approval. A military retreat was an example of an important decision. Zhongli Wu's greed was apparent as he nodded and said, "I think what he is offering is sufficiently precious." After finishing his sentence, he did not even look at Huo Yuhao as he turned around and flew down to the Sun Moon Empire camp. Even though his answer was not exactly direct, Zhongli Wu had undoubtedly expressed his opinion. Just as Zhu Zi wanted to talk to Huo Yuhao, a purple-black light suddenly flashed, and Zhongli Wu had returned. He shot a peculiar look at Huo Yuhao and said, "Huo Yuhao, if you are to lose, we can also choose not to kill you. As long as you join my Holy Ghost Church, I can spare your life." Even though Huo Yuhao's words might have sounded very offensive in the ears of others, they were nothing for the leader of the Holy Ghost Church. On top of that, after seeing how Huo Yuhao was able to showcase a bai and hearing some of the stories about him, he was already certain that Huo Yuhao must possess some secrets about evil soul masters. He not only wanted to know all of these secrets, but also nurture Huo Yuhao into a member of the Holy Ghost Church. With the talents that he possessed, he felt that he might have a chance at becoming the Holy Son of the Holy Ghost Church. It would definitely be a great blow to Shrek Academy if the dragon god Doluo's disciple were to join the Holy Ghost Church. Zhongli Wu was not in the least bit worried about whether Huo Yuhao really wanted to join the Holy Ghost Church. He was confident of transforming any person, no matter what type of person he or she was, into an evil soul master. Huo Yuhao smiled at Zhongli Wu and said, "Sure. As long as all of you can defeat me, I am perfectly fine with joining the Holy Ghost Church. After all, I am no longer part of any organization." Zhongli Wu also smiled. In fact, he was very happy. "Then I guess we have a promise." Juzi watched the sly foxes, who were smiling before her and couldn't help but wonder who was actually falling into the other person's trap. "Zhongli Wu, should I start mourning for you now?" Zhongli Wu was naturally unaware of what Juzi was thinking as he turned around and flew back to the camp. Juzi exclaimed, "All right, since our military supervisor has already agreed to this gamble, I shall agree to it as well. The battle shall begin in 2 hours' time at the space between our camp and Shrek City. The victor will be decided after 10 rounds of battle." Huo Yuhao smiled, but didn't say anything. He merely looked Juzi in the eye. Following which, he grabbed Tang Wutong's hand and flew towards the flat ground behind them. The virtual image of him, which he had created in the air, disappeared after he left. Following which, a bai and the morning dew dagger also turned into light that vanished into thin air. The Sun Moon Empire army and Shrek City were about 4 to 5 kilometers apart. The midpoint between these two locations was hence about 22 kilometers or so. It was undoubtedly the safest distance for both parties, as well as the fairest location to conduct the battle. After landing on the ground, Huo Yuhao crossed his legs and sat down before beginning to meditate. Tang Wutong merely stood behind him silently, as she kept watch over him. Meanwhile, Juzi brought the members of her Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion into the camp. Very soon, a meeting was held within the commander's tent. Every soldier and commander from the Sun Moon Empire had witnessed what had happened in the sky. Hence, Juzi did not need to introduce the challenge to the people present. After everyone had gathered in the tent, she immediately fired 2 questions at the rest of them. "Huo Yuhao has challenged our army. After receiving approval from the military supervisor, we have decided to accept his challenge. In that case, we now have 2 problems before us. First, who are the 10 people who should represent us? Second, who should keep the items that Huo Yuhao has promised to give up if he were to lose the challenge?" Zhongli Wu was sitting next to Juzi. When she raised these 2 questions, he glanced at her before his brows furrowed together. No one knew what he was thinking about. There were many powerful individuals within the commander's tent. The elite troops from the Sun Moon Empire were all present in this camp. Other than the powerful evil soul masters, several Class 9 soul engineers were also present. And this included several powerful individuals from the Sun Moon Empire's Imperial Consecration Hall. One of the Class 9 soul engineers stepped forward and said, "The winnings should naturally belong to the Empire. I am willing to fight for the Empire and get rid of that haughty rascal." Another Class 9 soul engineer nodded in approval. These Class 9 soul engineers were not idiots. After seeing Zhongli Wu fly up into the sky, they could tell that he was very much attracted by a bai. They would definitely not allow him to lay his hands on the Ice Bear King. Hence, they were all expressing their disagreement. At the same time, these Class 9 soul engineers were all expressing their interest to put their lives on the line for the Empire to fight Huo Yuhao. Then, Juzi looked over to Zhongli Wu and asked, "Military supervisor, what do you think about this?" Zhongli Wu said, "Logically speaking, what they have said is entirely correct. All war spoils should be kept by the Empire." As he finished his sentence, he scanned the Class 9 soul engineers with his cold gaze. The Class 9 soul engineers who fell under his gaze revealed an awkward expression. Even though they were all extremely powerful, they were still a little fearful of the leader of the Holy Ghost Church. However, it was within everyone's expectation that Zhongli Wu would not stop at that sentence. Since Huo Yuhao dares to challenge us, he must possess some special abilities. He is known to be adept at concealing himself, and seems to possess extremely powerful fighting abilities. He can also evade attacks from soul tools extremely well. Hence, it might be better for soul masters to go up against him rather than soul engineers. From the soul power fluctuations he has exhibited so far, I don't think he has become a transcendent dueler. After all, he is only a bit more than 20 years old. Among the two items which he has shown us, the short dagger is an ice-type godly weapon. I believe everyone has seen how powerful it is, and I agree that it should belong to the Empire. As for the other item, I am certain that it is a spectral creature. It doesn't have any direct use for our country. I believe that it can only be controlled by the Holy Ghost Church. We are the only ones capable of harnessing its power for the betterment of the Empire. One of the Class 9 Soul Engineers, who was formerly addressed by Zhu Zi as Elder Su, stood out and exclaimed, "Does this mean that our military supervisor plans to keep the war spoils for himself?" Zhongli Wu stood up straight, as he attempted to intimidate the others with his imposing figure. "Of course I will not be taking the spectral creature without contributing anything. I believe everyone here treasures his or her life a lot. No one would willingly put their lives on the line to fight to the death with Huo Yuhao. In that case, why not allow the Holy Ghost Church to be the main fighting force for the challenge against Huo Yuhao? As long as we can defeat him, it should make sense for us to take away one of the items which are not directly useful for the country. Isn't that right, Marshal?" He did not even look the Class 9 Soul Engineers in the eyes as he turned around to look at Zhu Zi. Zhu Zi looked at Zhongli Wu as a thought formed in her head. Yuhao. Yuhao. You have really made a brilliant move this time around. Everything seems to be going according to your plans. It seems like you have predicted what Zhongli Wu would do. If not, you would never have flashed that item to tempt him. In that case, there's no reason why I shouldn't assist you to take on our common enemy. However, are you really confident that you can defeat them? As Zhu Zi thought about it, she nodded gently. All right. Since the military supervisor has agreed to take on this responsibility, I shall hand this battle over to him. However, this battle concerns the pride of our army. At the same time, it also concerns the arrangement of our military strategy. Hence, there is no room for failure. Military supervisor, are you ready to receive an official military order? Huh? Zhongli Wu was caught off guard by Zhu Zi's words. An official military order? What was an official military order? When a person did not manage to achieve what was stated in an official military order, he or she would have to be punished by military law. This was something that was usually given only for tasks which were extremely important. Zhongli Wu did not expect Zhu Zi to ask him to receive an official military order. It was apparent that she did not want him to lay his hands on the powerful spectral creature. However, Zhongli Wu was not overly concerned about receiving an official military order. After all, Hu Yuhao was so much younger than him. He felt that he had been foolish to challenge them. In fact, he believed that it was laughable for him to propose such a battle format. Zhongli Wu felt that Hu Yuhao would not stand a chance against the power of the Holy Ghost Church. If the Holy Ghost Church were to fail, he believed he would have failed as their leader. Under the intense scrutiny of the surrounding Class 9 Soul Engineers, Zhongli Wu nodded slowly and said, "Sure, I will now take on your official military order. I am willing to be punished by military law if I fail to defeat Huo Yuhao with my people from the Holy Ghost Church." Very soon, under the supervision of the other people in the tent, Zhongli Wu penned down the official military order. Even as the imperial tutor and the military supervisor, he could not amend it once it had been issued. No one was exempted from this rule. Zhu Zi nodded and said, "All right. In that case, I wish you good luck, and that you will return victorious." HMPH. Zhongli Wu released an angry grunt, as he waved his sleeve and left the commander's tent furiously. Following which, the evil soul masters, which had followed him into the tent, left behind him. After watching him leave, Elder Su and the other Class 9 Soul Engineers quickly crowded over to Juzi's side. Elder Su said, "Marshal, are we really going to allow those evil soul masters to deal with Huo Yuhao? The aura released by the spectral creature is really frightening. Even though we don't know where it comes from, the Holy Ghost Church will definitely become a lot stronger if it were to fall into Zhongli Wu's hands." The other Class 9 Soul Engineers were also visibly worried about the possible disaster that could happen. Juzi waved her hand and replied plainly, "Hu Yuhao is a smart person. After all, he is the disciple of Mu Yen, the youngest member of the Shrek Academy's Sea Gods Pavilion, and also the heir to the Sea Gods Pavilion. Do you all think that an intelligent person like him would commit to a suicidal situation? Even if a conflict were to occur between him and the Academy, he would never do something like that. Besides, I could tell from the way he conversed with me today how assured he was about his chances. In that case, he must have something up his sleeve to be so confident. Since the military supervisor is so enthusiastic about the whole challenge, I felt that there would be no harm for him to give it a try. After all, he probably doesn't have enough people to form the 10-man team. If he can't pull it off, we will figure out a way to solve the problem. And if he were to somehow win, we will also figure something out." After hearing what she said, the powerful soul engineers went silent. Juzi's passive and somewhat conservative attitude was not exactly a bad option for the current situation. Hu Yuhao sat quietly on the expansive plains between the Sun Moon Empire camp and Shrek City. The soul power in his body was fluctuating in a sustained and stable manner. However, even though Tang Wutong was standing right beside him, she was unable to detect even a single bit of the soul power fluctuations from his body. This was why his two soul cores were so scary. Hu Yuhao was able to rely on his soul cores to compress all of his soul power into tiny spirals in his body. These spirals were the result of a perfect fusion between spiritual power and soul power. His soul cores would only absorb the origin energy of heaven and earth from his surroundings, and would definitely not release any energy easily. Hence, even Zhongli Wu was unable to tell exactly how powerful Huo Yuhao was. He could only make a guess from his breathing that Huo Yuhao had not become a transcendent Doluo. Yes, Huo Yuhao might not have truly attained the transcendent Doluo rank. However, he had twin martial souls and a second soul core. His rank 93 soul power was not something that any other rank 93 title Doluo could match. The icy war god's armor was already on his body. The human-shaped soul tool was able to keep all of its essence in its interior, and did not release a single bit of ultimate ice aura into the surrounding air. Hence, Huo Yuhao's surroundings appeared to be frighteningly quiet. Going 1 against 10 was something that had never happened before in the world of soul masters. Huo Yuhao was like a rash young man, who had acted on an impulse after running out of options. Was he really going to end his life in such a violent manner? On top of the city wall which surrounded Shrek City, the elders from the Sea Gods Pavilion had all arrived. The higher-ups from the Tang sect had also just arrived. Even they did not know what Huo Yuhao was intending to do. And now, there was already no one who could stop him from continuing what he had planned. Tang Wei squeezed Bei's hand and whispered, "Bei, do you think Yuhao can really do it?" Bei nodded fervently. "He can definitely do it. Since he has already suggested it to them, he must be able to do it. We must believe in him. Yuhao definitely possesses the ability to do it. He is only doing all of this to force the Sun Moon Empire army to retreat. He would not have done it if he were not confident of pulling it off. At the same time, he probably wants to take advantage of this battle to take down some of the more powerful individuals within the Sun Moon Empire." Tang Wei's worries did not seem to have lessened by Bei's words. "However, why do I feel that he is not fully confident that he will be able to triumph over all of them? It feels like he is putting himself into an extremely dangerous situation." Elder Xian, who was not too far from both of them, overheard what Tang Wei said. He turned his head and nodded. He said, "That's right. He wants to put himself into a suicidal situation. He wants to be reborn after dying. I am sure he knows what he's doing, even though I don't know exactly what his plan is. However, I believe that improving his own cultivation is one of his objectives. There is this saying that there will be a huge amount of fear when one is placed in a life-and-death situation. Hu Yuhao wants to improve himself by putting himself under immense pressure and fear. He is very different from any other normal title dueler because he already possesses his second soul core. This grants him the ability to grow and improve rapidly. He is yearning for power to become stronger and change the current situation on the battlefield. That is why he is making this decision. He wants to be stimulated by battle to activate his potential and become stronger. This would definitely speed up the process of him becoming a transcendent dueler. I don't think he has even considered the possibility of failure. On top of that, this is probably not his only objective. He must have made plans for something else too. If he were to successfully triumph over the 10 people, he would definitely attain a new level of understanding of his abilities and become a lot stronger. In fact, he might even be able to push for Transcendent dueler directly. Yes, only Elder Xian was qualified to comment about Huo Yuhao. This was because he was the only other person present who had 2 soul cores. However, Huo Yuhao had formed his second soul core from the yin-yang complement technique, whereas Elder Xian had formed his from the resonance technique. This video will end here.